He never loved you. You were just convenient. That's what my sister said at his funeral, in front of everyone, while I stood there clinging to a folded flag and shaking hands with people who barely knew him. That was the moment something inside me shattered, and something else began to rise. Hi, I'm Joanna Reed, 41 years old, and this isn't a love story. This is a story about truth, about what people say when they think they're right, and how it feels to finally prove them wrong. My husband, Daniel Reed, passed away 6 weeks ago. Sudden heart attack. 1 minute he was brushing his teeth, the next, gone. No goodbyes, no signs, just silence. The day after the funeral, I couldn't stop replaying it all. His laugh, his routine, even the way he left his shoes by the door. And that's when my sister Nicole walked into the kitchen, poured herself a coffee, and casually said, "He never loved you, Joe. You know that, right?" I blinked. Thought maybe I heard her wrong. But she looked at me like she was doing me a favor, like her words were some cruel charity. "You spent your whole marriage chasing someone who already left the moment he married you." I asked her to leave. Politely at first, she didn't. Instead, she said he used me, because I was safe, because I didn't challenge him. Then she said something that stopped my breath. "He told me that once, years ago. I just never had the heart to tell you." It was cruel. It was calculated. And I didn't know whether to believe her or myself. The truth is, my marriage wasn't perfect. We had rough patches, long silences, 2 miscarriages that nearly tore us apart. And sure, Daniel wasn't the most expressive man, but we had something. We had a rhythm, a life. 20 years of moments that I thought meant something. After Nicole left, I spent the whole night sitting on the floor of our bedroom, holding his old hoodie and going through drawers, not to prove her wrong, just needing to remember. And that's when I found the letter. It was taped beneath his sock drawer. Faded paper, Daniel's handwriting. My name on the front. I didn't open it, not yet, because for some reason, I was terrified. Terrified that it would prove her right, or worse, that it would say nothing at all. I didn't open the letter that night. I sat with it. I held it like a wound that hadn't stopped bleeding. I ran my fingers over the edges like they might explain what kind of man my husband really was. Daniel, the man I married, the man I buried. And now, the man my sister claimed never loved me. At dawn, I finally fell asleep with the letter on my chest, unopened. By noon, Nicole was back. She let herself in, like always, because I was too numb to change the locks yet. She walked into the kitchen like nothing had happened and started making avocado toast like she hadn't shattered what little piece I was clinging to. "You look tired," she said, flipping the bread. I didn't answer. She turned to me and sighed like she was the victim. "You know, Joe, I'm not trying to hurt you. I'm trying to set you free. You spent years putting him on a pedestal that never existed." I told her to stop. She didn't. "He cheated on you," she said bluntly. "Or did you never wonder why he had a second phone?" That one hit me like a slap. A second phone. I had never seen one, never thought to look. But Nicole said it so confidently, so casually, that it chipped at the foundation I had left. "I saw it," she added. "Years ago. He texted someone, and he looked guilty." I told her to get out. My voice cracked, but she left finally, not before saying, "You deserve the truth, even if it hurts." After she left, I searched. I tore the house apart looking for that second phone. Nothing. Not in the closets, not in the attic, not in his car. Just the letter, still unopened, still heavy. I finally went into his office, the room I hadn't entered since he passed. Everything was still neat. His favorite mug was on the desk, his glasses folded perfectly next to his laptop. A Post-it note with his usual call mom reminder still stuck to the edge of the screen. That's when I found the memory box. It was tucked under the desk, behind stacks of tax files. Inside were photos. Us at Niagara Falls on our first anniversary. A movie ticket stub from our first date. My hospital bracelet from the night we lost our first baby. There was also a photo of me, asleep on the couch clutching a hot water bottle. I must have been in pain that day. He'd written on the back in small, looping handwriting, "You always carry the pain quietly. I wish I could take it from you." I stared at that box, that message, and wondered what kind of man creates this collection and still cheats. Could both be true? That's when I picked up the letter. I sat on the edge of our bed and peeled back the envelope. Inside was 2 pages, dated just 3 weeks before he died. The first line? "Joe, if you're reading this, it means I didn't get the chance to say goodbye." My hands started trembling. He'd written it just in case something happened. There are things I never said enough, things I should have shouted instead of whispered. I stopped reading. I couldn't. Not yet. I needed to hear it all in my head, not while I was still filled with doubt and Nicole's poison. So I closed it, folded it back up, and did something I never thought I would. I called my sister and told her I was inviting the family over. I was going to read the letter aloud. If she wanted truth, she was going to hear it. And so was everyone else. I didn't tell anyone why I was inviting them, just sent a message in the group chat. "Please come by Sunday at 2 p.m. I have something important to share." The responses came quickly. My mom said, "Of course, sweetheart. We'll bring a pie." My cousin Elaine replied with a thumbs up and a heart. Nicole? She didn't respond at all, but I knew she'd come. She couldn't resist being the center of something, especially if she thought she'd have the upper hand. I spent that Sunday morning rearranging the living room, not cleaning, just organizing. I wanted the family to sit close. I wanted to look them in the eyes. I laid out Daniel's memory box, placed it in the center of the table, and set the letter beside it, unopened again. At 1:45, the doorbell rang. My mother arrived first, followed by my uncle and 2 cousins. They offered tight hugs and solemn smiles. Everyone still wore grief like a new coat, uncomfortable, unfamiliar, but trying to make it look presentable. At 2:01, Nicole walked in. She was dressed in black, of course, dramatic as ever. Hair curled, nails done, that smug, knowing look already creeping across her face. I didn't acknowledge it. I asked everyone to sit. My voice was quiet, but there was something in the air, tension, like the calm before a storm no one knew was coming. "I found something," I began, hands resting on the folded paper. "A letter from Daniel, written before he died." Gasps, a shifting of bodies. Nicole raised an eyebrow. I glanced around the room, then looked straight at her. "And I want to read it aloud." There was silence, heavy and curious. I unfolded the pages. "Joe, if you're reading this, it means I didn't get the chance to say goodbye." My voice cracked, but I kept going. "I've been thinking a lot about how I've failed you, not in the big dramatic ways people assume, but in the quieter ways. Like the times I didn't say thank you for carrying both of us through the miscarriages, or when I didn't hold you tighter after your dad's funeral." I heard someone sniffle. I wasn't sure who. "You made this house a home when I forgot how. You stayed when I tried to push you away. You gave me dignity when I didn't earn it. And still, somehow, you loved me better than I loved myself." I stopped for breath. Nicole looked pale. "I always thought I had time to tell you that you weren't just my wife, Joe. You were the only part of me that was ever real. Everything else, job, money, ambition, that was just noise. But you were music." Tears rolled down my cheeks. "If I leave one thing behind, I hope it's this, the truth, that I loved you desperately, deeply, even when I was too proud to show it, especially then. When I looked up, half the room was in tears. But Nicole? She was frozen. Her eyes didn't move. Her lips slightly parted, trembling. I stared right at her and asked, "Is that convenient enough for you?" She didn't answer. She couldn't. For once her mouth failed her. No one defended her. No one asked questions. The room was too full of something else now. Regret, disbelief and truth too heavy to deny. When the silence stretched long enough, I folded the letter and placed it back in the box. I said only one more thing. Don't speak about my husband again. Not in this house. And I walked out of the room, leaving her there, with the truth she claimed I couldn't handle. Turns out she was the one who couldn't handle it. After that day, Nicole didn't call. She didn't text, didn't stop by. Nothing. And honestly, I thought maybe that was the end of it. I thought the letter would be the final word, that maybe Daniel's truth, written in his own hand, would be enough to bury her lies. But grief is tricky. It doesn't just come with tears, it comes with questions. And the one that kept creeping in late at night, whispering when the house went still, was simple. Why would she say that? What made her so certain he didn't love me? Was it jealousy? Spite? Something I missed? I needed to know. Not to reopen the wound, but to close it properly. So I started digging. I pulled out old journals. I went through phone records. I reviewed our email threads, ones Daniel and I exchanged over the years, especially during our lowest points. He was never a wordy man, but I found one. I don't know how to help you, but I want to. I love you, even if I say all the wrong things. It was something, real, raw. I printed it out, added it to the box. Then, one afternoon, while cleaning the attic, I found an old shoebox labeled Vacation Plans. I almost put it aside, until I noticed something odd. It was taped shut, Daniel's style again. Inside were brochures from places we never visited, Italy, Alaska, some Caribbean island I couldn't pronounce. But underneath them was a folded receipt from a jewelry store. 4 years ago, he'd purchased a diamond pendant, elegant, simple, expensive, and I had never received it. Confused, I called the store, pretending to be the buyer, asked if the item had been returned or delivered. The woman checked. It was picked up, she said, signed for by a Nicole Reed. My breath stopped. Nicole, my sister. Why would she sign for a gift meant for me? I hung up, my hands shaking again, this time not from grief, but something else. Rage. I didn't confront her immediately. Not yet. Instead, I opened Daniel's memory box again and looked at that photo, the one of me asleep with the hot water bottle. I flipped it over. The handwriting. So familiar now. So careful. You carry the pain quietly. And then it hit me. Maybe Daniel did try. Maybe he tried more than I ever realized. Maybe Nicole didn't just lie. Maybe she stole. I scrolled through my old texts with her, combing for anything that hinted at it. And there it was. A message, dated the same week as the receipt. Hey, Joe, you should totally skip dinner plans that night. Get some rest. I'll handle everything. I remember that night. I'd felt awful, stayed in bed, thinking Daniel had forgotten our anniversary. Nicole had come over with wine and a movie, saying he'd been caught up at work again. But what if that wasn't true? What if Daniel had planned something and she intercepted it, and then twisted the story in the years that followed? My heart thudded with each possibility. I didn't just need closure now, I needed answers. And for the first time in weeks, I didn't feel helpless anymore. I felt focused, because there was one more place I hadn't looked. Daniel's personal files, the ones on the old hard drive in his desk, password protected but never locked to me. And something told me whatever Nicole didn't want me to find might be there. So I charged the laptop, entered the password, and opened a folder titled, For Joe, If Ever. That's when I knew. This wasn't over. Not yet. My fingers hovered over the mouse as I stared at the folder name. For Joe, if ever. Those 3 words were so Daniel, cryptic, incomplete, and deeply meaningful. I clicked. Inside were several files, some labeled photos, letters, and one marked Nicole, read only. That one sent a jolt through my spine. But I didn't open it first. I went to the letters folder. There were 5 documents, all Word files, all dated over the last 7 years. The first one was titled Anniversary, 2019. Joe, I don't know how to make you smile anymore, but I remember how you used to. I remember that dance we did in the kitchen after the frozen pizza caught fire. I remember the way you hummed when you folded laundry. I know I haven't been enough lately, but I still choose you every day. I just hope I'm still someone you'd choose too. I cried, quietly, not out of heartbreak, but out of realization. Daniel had been trying, just not in the ways I was looking for. The second document was from the following year. Today, Nicole said I'm wasting my time, that Joe doesn't notice, that I should just stop. But she doesn't know you like I do. She doesn't know that when you're in pain, you shut down to protect the people you love. She doesn't see the strength it takes to carry a broken heart and still smile at strangers. I froze. Nicole said, I'm wasting my time. So this had been going on for years. She hadn't just made one cruel comment after his funeral. She'd been planting seeds of doubt, erosion for years. I opened the third document. I asked Nicole to give you the necklace, told her to tell you it was from me. I saw the box on her vanity a month later. I never brought it up. I couldn't. I thought maybe I was wrong. Maybe she had a plan. But the disappointment on your face that night told me everything. My breath caught. So he did buy me the necklace, and she kept it. Suddenly, everything clicked. The canceled plans, the subtle digs Nicole made during holidays, the way she'd always forget to pass on messages or twist his words in front of me, her constant presence, but always just close enough to cause confusion, not comfort. I opened the final file labeled simply, If Joe Ever Doubts. Joe, if you're reading this, it means Nicole has gotten in your head. Again, I'm sorry I didn't stop her. I thought she'd change. I thought family meant something to her. But I see now I should have protected you. The truth is, I loved you, madly. I just didn't know how to fight her lies and keep you whole. She wanted to be loved the way you are, and she never could be. I stared at the screen, the words burning into me like heat. Daniel knew. He knew what she was doing, and he left breadcrumbs, clues, in the only way he could. I clicked on the final folder, Nicole, read only. There were recordings, short clips, maybe phone recordings or saved voicemails. One caught my eye. It was just labeled July 12th, kitchen. I hit play. It was Nicole's voice, clear as day, saying, Honestly, Dan, she's too soft. You could leave her tomorrow and she'd still defend you. She's a doormat. That's why she'll never leave. She doesn't have the guts. Then his voice, cold, final. If you ever talk about my wife like that again, you won't be allowed in this house. She laughed. Oh, please, you'll be gone before me. I stopped the recording. My chest ached, but it wasn't sadness this time. It was fury. Nicole had known he loved me. She just couldn't stand that he never looked at her the way he looked at me. And now I had proof. More than the letter. More than words. I had her voice mocking me, doubting me, exposing herself, and I knew exactly what to do next. I didn't rush it. Revenge isn't a race, it's a reveal, and I wanted everyone to hear it. So I planned another gathering, this time under the pretense of going through Daniel's things. I said I needed help sorting through memories, that I couldn't do it alone. People came. Of course they did. They loved Daniel even if they'd never fully understood him. Nicole was the last to arrive. She walked in like she hadn't stolen anything, like she wasn't the architect of my doubt, my grief, my spiral. Hey, she said breezily, need help deciding what to keep? I smiled, calm, quiet. No decisions, I said, just clarity. She tilted her head but said nothing. I asked everyone to sit again, like last time. My mother, my cousins, my uncle, a few of Daniel's closest friends, even his old boss, Mark, who flew in for the weekend, a room full of people who had loved or respected Daniel, people Nicole had smiled at over casseroles and condolences. I opened Daniel's laptop and cast the screen to the TV. "Before he died," I began, "Daniel left me something, and I'd like to share it." Nicole's face didn't change. Not yet. I played the first letter, read aloud as Daniel had written it. His admissions, his memories, his love. You could have heard a pin drop. Then I clicked to the folder. Nicole, read only. Her posture shifted. Barely. I hovered the cursor over the recording labeled July 12th, Kitchen. "I debated whether to share this," I said, "but I think the truth belongs to more than just me." Then I pressed play. "Honestly, Dan, she's too soft. You could leave her tomorrow and she'd still defend you. She's a doormat. That's why she'll never leave. She doesn't have the guts." Murmurs. A gasp from my aunt. And then Daniel's voice, low and sharp. "If you ever talk about my wife like that again, you won't be allowed in this house." Silence. Then her laugh. "Oh, please, you'll be gone before me." I paused the clip. Looked around the room. My mother's hand was over her mouth. Mark looked stunned. Elaine just shook her head slowly, staring at Nicole. And Nicole? She didn't speak. Her lips parted slightly, but the sound never came. I could see it, her whole world wobbling. She tried. She actually tried. That was taken out of context, she finally said. Her voice was hoarse. "You don't know the rest. He was angry that day. He always exaggerated." I nodded. "Let's test that theory." I clicked to the next file. Daniel's final letter. "Nicole tried to convince me Joe never loved me either, that we were both pretending. She kept saying I'd be happier with someone who admired my ambition instead of my soul. But Joe never wanted my money. She wanted my heart. And that terrified Nicole, because it was the one thing she could never take." I looked up. "Still want to talk about context, Nicole?" She stood. "You're humiliating me." "No," I said calmly. "You did that to yourself. I'm just done letting you hide behind grief and fake sympathy. You wanted him to doubt me. You wanted me to doubt him. And for a while, you won." Her face flushed deep red. I turned to the rest of the room. "You all showed up for his funeral. You spoke about love, about loyalty. But the person he trusted least sat at the front row." Nicole grabbed her bag. "I don't need this," she snapped. "I only came to support you." I stared at her, voice quiet but firm. "Then here's my return gift. Leave, and don't come back." She looked to our mother, who wouldn't meet her eyes. No one said a word in her defense. Nicole left. No goodbyes, no more games. And for the first time in weeks, I felt the room exhale. I closed the laptop, held Daniel's letter to my chest, and so the door clicked shut behind Nicole, and the room stayed quiet for several long seconds. Not awkward silence, reverent silence. The kind that happens when everyone has just witnessed something final, not explosive, not chaotic, just inevitable. I didn't cry. I didn't collapse. I didn't even shake. I felt still, like a long-held breath had finally left my lungs. My mother stood slowly. She walked over to me, her expression unreadable, eyes wide, mouth parted like she'd aged 10 years in a moment. "I didn't know," she said softly, "about any of that." "I didn't either," I told her. She opened her mouth again, maybe to say something kind, or maybe to apologize for all the times she let Nicole's sharp tongue go unchecked, but no words came. Just a shaky hand on my shoulder and the kind of look only a mother can give when she realizes she believed the wrong child. People trickled out after that. Quiet goodbyes, hugs. A few whispered, "He really did love you," but the weight of what had happened lingered in the walls long after the last car drove away. I sat on the couch and reopened the letter. Daniel's voice in my head now, not shaky, not strained, but his, like he was sitting across from me, one foot tapping like always, fingers folded. "You gave me more than a marriage. You gave me belief. I didn't know how to say it right, but I tried. In every photo I saved, every ticket stub, every cup of coffee I brewed before your alarm. That line hit me hard. He knew I wasn't easy to love. He just never stopped trying. And I spent so long thinking maybe I wasn't enough. That night, I took the memory box to our bedroom and placed it beside my nightstand. I opened a drawer, pulled out the journal I'd been avoiding since his death, and finally wrote, "I know now. I believe you. I believe me." It was the first sentence I'd written without shaking. The next few weeks moved slowly. Nicole didn't reach out. No apology, no defense, just distance. And honestly, that was the real gift. For the first time in years, I had a life without her commentary, her chaos, her grip on my doubts. I called Daniel's favorite charity and set up a memorial scholarship in his name, the Daniel Reed Quiet Strength Award, for students who persevered quietly, who supported others silently, who, like him, never needed the spotlight to make an impact. They asked me for a quote. I sent this: "He didn't change the world, but he changed mine." And maybe that was enough. One afternoon, a package arrived with no sender's name. Inside was a velvet box, the necklace, the one from the receipt. No note, no explanation. I stared at it for a long time, then closed the lid gently and tucked it into Daniel's box. Not because I forgave her, but because it belonged to our story, not hers. And maybe that was all that mattered, because in the end, Daniel didn't leave me alone. He left me the truth. He left me proof. He left me peace. And in a world full of people ready to twist a story to suit themselves, he gave me the one thing that couldn't be argued, broken, or rewritten: his words. A month after the last gathering, I visited Daniel's grave alone. I hadn't been back since the funeral. The ground was no longer fresh, the flowers had wilted, and the little flag I'd placed beside his name was barely upright in the wind. I knelt down anyway, knees in the dirt, palms resting on the cold stone. "I found your letter," I whispered. My voice didn't shake. I read it aloud. The breeze picked up like a response, soft, passing through my hair, brushing against my cheeks. "I'm sorry it took me so long to believe you," I said. "To believe that I didn't imagine the love, that it was real, that it wasn't just something I wanted to see in you." I reached into my bag and pulled out the folded pages, now worn at the edges, creased from being opened so many times. I didn't need to read them anymore. I had every word memorized, but I placed them beside the gravestone anyway, held down by a small river stone. "You said once that you hoped your truth would outlive you?" I smiled. It did. I stayed for a while. No tears, no guilt, just stillness. Because Daniel's final gift wasn't the letter. It wasn't the words or the apology or even the proof. It was what those words unlocked in me. The courage to stop doubting myself, to look in the mirror and see a woman who was loved, who had been chosen, and who now got to choose herself every day without waiting for someone else's permission to feel worthy. When I got home, I took Daniel's memory box and placed it on the top shelf of my closet, where it would always be near, but no longer something I needed to hold on to daily. And then I sat at my desk and did something I hadn't done in a long time. I wrote, not in a journal, not for therapy, but for a future that now felt possible. I wrote about what it's like to be married to someone who loves you quietly. I wrote about what it feels like to lose them and still find pieces of them in the drawer, in your chest, in your breath. I wrote about being lied to, about sisterhood gone wrong, about the way doubt can sound like love when it's dressed in familiarity. And I wrote about reclaiming yourself piece by piece through truth. I submitted the essay to a small women's magazine, didn't think much of it. But a few weeks later, they replied. They wanted to publish it. His letter proved otherwise. That was the title they chose. And when it went live, the comments rolled in. Dozens of women who had been told they weren't loved, weren't enough, weren't worthy. Until proof arrived, in the form of a journal, a voicemail, a final whisper, or even just the slow, steady rebuilding of their own voice. Nicole never reached out again. I don't know where she went or what she tells herself to sleep at night. Maybe she believes she was protecting me. Maybe she'll always believe she was right. But I no longer care, because this story finally belongs to me. Not to her version, not even to Daniel's memory, but to the woman I became in the aftermath, the woman who stood up, held the truth in her hand, and said, "He loved me, and now I do too."